Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and the title is I Can't Do That. What we're going to be talking about is self-limitations. So we're going to talk about self-limitations that we kind of put on ourselves. I guess that's kind of self-explanatory. But what I'm getting to is the limitations we put on ourselves from the believed perceptions or judgments of others. Okay? And we're going to talk about our own kind of like self-limitations as well. So in regards to the judgment or fear of judgment of others and allowing that to hold us back, I was talking with a client. I was actually talking to two clients recently within very similar days, and they had discussed that they were forgetting to take their protein at night. So one of the clients, I kind of gave them just the advice of if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So put it somewhere you can see it. And they were the second person of the discussion. The very first person who I talked with, they're probably listening to this, so they're going to be laughing. But they said, hey, I'm forgetting to take my protein at night. Can I just take it in the morning? And I was like, no, because that's not what we need it. We need the protein at night. So that way their body has something to use to build and repair their tissues throughout the night. So that's why they would want the protein before they went to bed. And there's a whole bunch of nutritional kind of stuff I'm skipping over. But the timing mattered. So they needed to take it at night. So after me telling them that they're a grown-ass adult, they can just remember. So remember better. We were talking about ideas. And I said, the out of sight, out of mind thing. I said, why don't you just put it in your bathroom? So that way, every night, before you brush your teeth or something, you can just, take the protein. And their immediate response was, I can't do that. What would people think? To which I replied, who are these people that will be in your bathroom? So I died laughing that they wouldn't put the protein in their bathroom because they didn't want people to judge them. But yet, who the hell was going to be in their personal bathroom? So it was just kind of a funny thing. So we were kind of laughing about it. And they couldn't really explain exactly why. It was just something you don't normally do. So, maybe it would seem like the bathroom was cluttered, or that maybe it'd just be weird, I guess, to have, protein powder in your bathroom. Not that they had to necessarily sit on the counter, although that is in sight, so it allowed them to remember. But I just died laughing that they wouldn't do it, because they wouldn't do something for themselves, for their own health, something that made them a healthier, happier, better person. Because someone might walk in and go, oh, why do you have protein powder on your shelf? Who cares? Who gives a crap if anybody asks that question? And also, the bathroom. Who the hell is going to be in their bathroom? It's not like a public bathroom. There's not like there's dozens of people. Your pastor or church members aren't coming over and judging your bathroom. Your coworkers aren't coming to your bathroom. Oh my God, I died laughing that they were going to... I couldn't believe that was a limitation that somebody was going to accept based on that fear. So in reality, no one would have ever seen it. And no one would give a shit whether this person had protein powder on their bathroom sink. So we kind of laughed, and our leaving comments was, whatever you do, fix it. But that was the story that kind of made me think of this podcast topic, was the fact that they would potentially do something, they would avoid doing something that would help their health because of the fear of the perception of other people. And it wasn't even something you could almost even argue was legitimate. So all of these strangers that would be in their bathroom, they didn't want to be judged by. Now, I've had my own things like that as well. So I've talked about in past podcasts, I'm blind in my left eye. And when I was younger, I was really kind of sensitive to the fact of whether I'd come across cross-eyed. And it was kind of like you see in movies, the people in movies, whoever were cross-eyed, was always made fun of or they were thought less of. So it was never really a positive trait. So when I was thinking about myself is, okay, if I'm cross-eyed, people are going to make fun of me or they'll think less of me. And I let that kind of hold me back throughout high school and even into early years of college, to where I wouldn't look at people in the eye very long or try to avoid it altogether. And I wouldn't seek out new friends, new circumstances. I wouldn't put myself out there in the public and meeting new people because I thought, they're going to see my eyes crooked, and they're gonna think I'm an idiot. And eventually, what I realized was and I don't remember if I had like an epiphany moment, but I just remember thinking to myself I've lived in fear of people judging me, and it has made me not live the life that I'd wanted. However, if I were to live the life I wanted and it turned out that people did judge me, then at least it would be reasonable if I were to then revert back to these bad habits, if that makes sense. So why don't I just try it and see if it matters? And thankfully I did, because I found out people don't really give a shit. So you'll get a couple weird looks at you every now and then. So when I'm talking to somebody, and if they start to notice, I'll see their eyes moving like left and right, looking at my eyes, and I can tell as they're trying to figure out like which one do they look at. And then sometimes if I have to kind of talk to somebody across a room, they won't know that I'm talking to them. So I'll say something like, "Hey, can you get this for me?" And they'll go, "Who? Me?" And I'm like, "Damn it, yes." So it's like, ugh, that is who I'm trying to look at. But I found out that my self-perception, like my self-limitation, was people might think less of me or make fun of me. And in reality, was people didn't really care. So at the end of the day, they were going to judge me based on my knowledge, my passion, my friendliness, my personality. They were going to judge me on stuff a lot more than just the eye. So maybe the eye was something they would notice, but that wouldn't define who I was. So that's what I had to kind of learn, was that might be a part of me, but that isn't all of me. So I just kind of said, screw it. I'm just going to try to live the life I want. Let's see how bad this really is. And it turned out not to be a thing at all. So as much as I made fun of the lady with the protein, I have my own limitations and own kind of like stupid thoughts as well. And I say stupid thought because I know that's not very sensitive. Because people are going to say like, "Oh, I'm not stupid. This is a real thing." It probably is a real thing. Like, I actually am blind in my left eye, but it didn't really matter. So typically we overblow like things. So there was a book I've been reading, and they were talking about the topic of shadows. And I don't remember if I made a podcast about this or not, but typically the shadow, if we're walking down the street, okay, and we see our shadow is typically a lot larger than we are. So if you were to like look at the size of the shadow on the ground, it might be like a 10-foot shadow, and we're only like 6 foot tall. And that tends to be the way life works, is our fear of things, okay, the shadow that is cast on this thing by our thoughts and perceptions is much larger than the reality of it. So we tend to overblow it, overlarge it, overemphasize it, to where if we just kind of dove in and tried it out, it wouldn't be as bad as we thought. Okay? So what you want to think of is, if we're afraid of the opinions or the judgment of others, we have to recognize that the judgment of others only matters if we care or value their opinion. So you absolutely should not value the opinion of everyone else. There are some that you should, and that helps us kind of know if we're how we're doing in life. It's almost like a form of checking on yourself. And that could be people who are like family members, really close friends, maybe mentors, people who have treated us with love, and we've treated with love back. And we know they're in our corner. We know that they're kind of watching out for us. And there's that bond of helping each other live the best life they can. On those people, you should value their opinion. So if they speak up and say, "Hey, I've been seeing this in your life, and here's the negative consequences that I've noticed, this might be something you want to address." That's typically how someone who loves you will talk to you. Okay? Someone who loves you isn't going to go, "Oh, you're an idiot. Why are you doing da-da-da-da-da?" That's not very nice. So people whose opinions do matter, that you should listen to, are often going to approach you with love. They're going to approach you with explanation. It's going to be kind of more obvious that they're telling you because they want it to help you. Versus the people who don't matter, they're going to be the ones who tell you to hurt you. Okay? So the people who we should listen to tell us to help us. The people we shouldn't listen to tell us to hurt us. Okay? Now, sometimes that can be confusing because it might actually be a family member who is somebody that tries to hurt you. And that sucks. Okay? But you have to lump them into the category of the people whose opinions don't matter. If someone just tries to hurt you all the time, they do not matter whether they're blood or not. Okay? So, we want to give value to the opinions of the people who we love and trust, and then place absolutely no value in the opinions of everyone else. So some random person down the street, maybe your, negative Nancy neighbor who always judges everyone no matter what they do, don't try to win their approval. Who gives a shit about Nancy's approval? Okay? So you just want to live your life to the best of your abilities, create the best life that you can, become your best self. Okay? And anyone who supports that process is somebody you want to value their opinion. Anyone who doesn't support that process, then don't value their opinion. Okay? So that's what we want to think of when we kind of, should I put protein powder in my bathroom so that way I remember to take it? If your immediate thought is, well, what is somebody going to think if they see protein powder in my bathroom? Your immediate answer then should be, well, you know what? I don't really care what they think. If they think something negative of me about this, but this is something that's helping me and it's good for my health, then I wouldn't care if they thought something bad. Because if they thought it was bad for me or it was wrong or whatever, then, they're not somebody who cares about me. Okay? People who care about you, they might laugh. They'll go, geez, Wiz, you're taking this health thing to a crazy level. Man, you got protein powder. What are you, brushing your teeth with that stuff? And they'll joke like that. But they'll be supportive. They won't really mention it again. They won't care. They'll be happy for you. So if you were to tell them oh, yeah, I kept forgetting it, so I thought I'd put it there, and, it's actually been helping, they'll go, oh, that's pretty cool. I need to do that in my bathroom, or I need to do da-da-da-da-da. So people who love you and help you and support you, they're going to be the ones who are going to have fun responses, supportive responses. Okay? So again, we shouldn't limit ourselves based on negative people who are probably going to be negative anyhow, no matter what you do. You really shouldn't seek the approval of negative people. Seek the approval of the people who are closest to you and the ones who love you. Okay, now, what about self-limits due to our own perceived limits of our capability? Okay? At some point in your life, so this is basically coming back to if you say, oh, I can't do that because you don't think you're going to be capable of it. That's what we want to address on this one. So at some point in your life, you have learned something that you previously didn't know. Okay? So you have something that you consider yourself pretty knowledgeable in. Maybe not even an expert. Okay? But there's something that you're like, man, you know what? I know a lot about that thing, and I'm pretty good at that thing. And it's going to be something that you never knew before. You taught yourself over time, and you learned it, you experimented, and you developed the knowledge over time. So think to yourself, if you were playing the game of Jeopardy, okay, and Alex Trebek, he went to announce what the topic was for the final round of Jeopardy. What topic would you want him to say? So what topic do you think that you could win $1 million from if they asked you a question? Okay? So for me, it might be say training or nutrition. So I think I know that stuff pretty well. I also have every movie that I've ever watched. I can tell you the storyline of the movie. I kind of they automatically kind of just stay in my mind. So I have a hard time watching movies over and over again because I can just predict the dang thing, and it's kind of boring watching it the second time. I can also remember song lyrics very well without being able to remember who sang the song or what the song title is. So. But if I had to pick, I'd probably pick nutrition and training, not song lyrics and movies. But what would you pick? So what's the topic that you think, I know a lot about this. I could probably answer a question and win $1 million on this topic. What is it? So it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. Maybe it's, computer technology, stuff like that. Maybe it's, maybe you read a lot of books. So it's book history or book knowledge. Maybe you're a car mechanic, car guy. So maybe you can answer questions about cars. Maybe video games and anime and all that craziness. Maybe you're a mom to a bunch of kids, and you're I can tell you the difference between a spoiled cry and a real cry. That's a type of knowledge. So my mom ran a daycare out of her house for 30 some years. So I grew up with a bunch of kids in my house at all times. And there absolutely are spoiled cries to where like we'd all be sitting there and the kid would be crying. And so we'd be like, aren't you going to go help them? I'm like, they're fine. So it's like they're just, you can tell they're mad because they probably didn't get some toy or something. They're okay. So, and then like within 2 minutes, they're not crying anymore and they're running around the house, throwing toys. So that's a type of knowledge. So what is the thing that you know a lot about now? Okay. And then think to yourself, well, how much did I know about that topic just like 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago? At some point in time, you didn't know a lot about that topic. You maybe didn't even know it existed. But through time and with practice and with just being immersed in it and being involved in it, you learned. Well, anything new that you want to master, anything new that you want to learn, it's the same process. You just have to get yourself immersed in it, spend time in it, practice with it, analyze with it. So just like you've learned other skills in your life, you can learn a new skill. You are capable of learning new things. Okay? Now, we have to be realistic. So I am telling you that, I would love to tell you that you can achieve anything in life, but you're not going to. Okay? Not everybody can. So if I'm 5'3" and I want to be in the NBA, can I be in the NBA? Well, if you're Muggsy Bogues, yes. If you're anyone else, no. So it's very unlikely that if you're 5'3", you're ever going to be in the NBA. But could you be really good at like street ball, post some videos on YouTube, get famous and get paid to kind of travel the world and play basketball? Yeah. That's something you could do at 5'3". If you're a really good basketball player, you could do that. Maybe you can even teach clinics about basketball, like fundamental skills. Then all of a sudden you're getting paid to do your dream of playing basketball and even teaching it to other people. So there are variations of our dreams that are absolutely possible. Are you going to get that like peak, tippy top type dream? Maybe, maybe not. But can you still accomplish something within that realm? Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay? So if you've been out of shape for 20 years, are you ever going to get back into shape to where you can wear a bikini again? Maybe. Probably if it's 20 years out of shape, it's going to take a pretty good amount of time to get you back into a bikini, okay? So let's say it's going to take you 5 years. And you're like, oh my gosh, 5 years. Well, guess what? You probably plan on being alive for more than the next 5 years, right? I'd hope so. So if you're going to be alive for the next 5 years, why not spend them getting in better shape? So then for the years after 5 years, you can wear the damn bikini. So if you only have to invest 5 years into having the body that you're proud of and happy with, that's not a significant amount of time. It really isn't. Think about it. If you live over 50 years, 5 years is only 10% of your life. Okay? If I told you only had to spend 10% of your life to be happy for the other 90%, you'd be like, oh, hell yes. You'd take that deal anytime you wanted, right? So I remember when I started lifting weights, I started when I was 16 years old. I was 6 foot tall, 165 pounds, and I had fat rolls and no muscle definition. It's hard to have definition when you have no muscle. So I definitely had no definition and no muscle. So if I was then as lean as I am now, I probably would have been about 140 pounds. So 6 foot tall, 140 pounds is a very skinny dude. And I remember I couldn't squat 135. My max bench was 95 pounds. And it took a couple workouts to get up to that. It took me, I forget exactly, but it probably took me 6 months to get to 95 pounds. And I remember the deadlift that I kind of, after I first figured out what deadlifts were and started practicing them a little bit, I could deadlift 185 pounds. So when I first started, with a couple workouts in me and say 6 months of training, I couldn't squat 135. Couldn't even do that. I could only bench 95 pounds and I could only deadlift 185. So I'd have had a 410 pound free lift total. So those who are familiar with powerlifting, what you do is you add up your best squat, your best bench press, and your best deadlift, and that gives you a total. So I'd have had a 410 pound total. But now, 20 years later, pretty much, so 19 and a half years later, I'm still 6 foot tall, so I haven't been able to do anything about that. But I'm 280 pounds now, so I doubled my body weight. So I weighed 140 if I was as lean as I was now, and now I weigh 280. So it took me 20 years to gain 140 pounds. That's less than 10 pounds a year. But that's pretty damn significant when you put 20 of those years together. So in each individual year, if I only gained 8 pounds, it would not have seemed like a very successful year, or it wouldn't have been that significant. Think if I only went from 140 to 148, then from 148 to 156, after 2 years of lifting, people would have thought I wasn't really moving anywhere, right? Well, after 20 years, it allowed me to double my freaking body weight. That's huge. So now my best squat is 600 pounds in sleeves. I have a 435 bench and a 700 pound deadlift. So I have a 1,735 pound, total. So 1,735. So I went from a 410 to a 1,735. That's 4 times over where I started. Now those numbers, if I told you I was 6 foot tall, 280, squatted 600, bench 435, and deadlifted 700, those are pretty impressive numbers. But it took me 20 freaking years to get there. So I have met people the first time they deadlifted 500 pounds. Jackasses. So I've met people the first time they squatted, like in 6 months of squatting, like at our gym, I've had people come in and they've never squatted, benched, or deadlifted much before, or at all. And within less than a year, they could squat like 400, or they could bench like 315, or they could deadlift like 400, 500. That's absolute bullshit. So it took me 20 freaking years to get to those numbers. So, but where I started, at 140 pounds, weak as hell, 410 pound total. And if I would have told somebody, that someday I'm going to be, twice my body size. Someday I'm going to lift 4 times as much weight as what I can lift now, they would have thought I was crazy. But year by year, step by step, you chip away, you chip away, you chip away. And eventually you can get there. So I remember I dreamed of being Mr. Olympia. So back when I started, I watched you think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I read Muscular Development, Muscle and Fitness, all those magazines. I was watching RX Muscle online. They had In the Iron Asylum, was like training videos with bodybuilders. And I remember the standard being like 300 pounds in the off season, and you have to have 20-inch arms. So that was what I thought I could achieve. Was it realistic? Meh. Arguable. I'd probably have to take enormous amounts of drugs to even get remotely close to that. So, but it's probably not going to ever happen. I don't want to take that amount of drugs, and I'm too late in my life now to do it. But would be Mr. Olympia would have been like the toppy top of maybe kind of sort of possible, if at all, really. And if I had to answer honestly, I'd say hell no, it wouldn't have been possible. But that might have been like my biggest dream, that man, that would be so cool if I could do that. So that would have been my goal. Okay. Now, did I achieve my goal? No. But am I a failure? Hell no. Okay. So I'm not Mr. Olympia. Okay. So I wanted to be that. And that's the thing, is if you limit yourself, from the start. Whereas if I would have looked at myself and said, you know what, I'm a skinny, weak kid. There's no way I could be Mr. Olympia. I might as well not even try. So think to yourself, is what would you love to accomplish? What would be a dream of yours? Maybe you'd like to gain 100 pounds of muscle. Maybe you'd like to lose 100 pounds of fat. Maybe you'd like to learn a new skill. So we have tons of listeners here who want to become personal trainers. I get emails from you guys all the time. Thank you, by the way. But there's a ton of people who want to become personal trainers, and they have their own limitations of, I'm not in the greatest shape yet, but, thank you for the podcast. I'm really working on it. You don't have to be in great shape. I started personal training people when I was that 6 foot tall, 140 pound, weak kid. That's when I started helping people. Okay? You can do it. You just have to start. You have to get out of your own way. So if you limit yourself from the start, or if you limit yourself so much you never start, okay, you're going to miss out on what you possibly could achieve. Will you reach your peak goal? Maybe, maybe not, okay? But could you reach something? Yes. And you might actually reach something even better. So in my case, I didn't become Mr. Olympia, but who would that have helped? If I'd have become Mr. Olympia, it maybe have helped some, okay? But it would have been a very selfish life. It would have had to have been all about me to get myself there. And maybe through that process, I wouldn't have developed into becoming more of a teacher type person than I am now. I wouldn't have kind of like maybe devoted myself to helping others as much as I do now. So it would have been a selfish life, and it would have been an accomplishment that would have died the day I died. So me being Mr. Olympia would have helped no one once I died. It'd have been done, over with. But in my process of trying to become Mr. Olympia, okay, when I was younger, that's what the dream that got me fired, got me started. I didn't reach that dream, but in the process of me trying to learn as much as I can, and subsequently getting into helping other people, is I've had well over 1,000 clients. I stopped counting years ago because there's no point in 1,000 sounds good enough. So no need to be any more accurate than that. And a lot of those people have been trainers. So imagine all the clients of theirs that they've helped with the knowledge that I was able to give them. So it's a lot of people. The podcast, we're actually, in this month of August, it's been a year now since I've done the podcast. And we have over 30,000 downloads in the first year of the podcast. So 30,000 times I've been able to help somebody. That's insane. That is really cool. That is awesomely motivating. And it was just with promotions through like just our gym's social media pages and the kindness of you guys sharing these podcasts with friends and family. But there was I didn't pay a dime for advertising. I didn't try to promote it anything above what it was. I wasn't going to try to force it down people's faces because maybe it was crap. So, I hope this stuff is helpful, and it turns out that a lot of you guys think so. But I didn't want to force it on people. I just figured I'd make it, and hopefully it helped, and if people liked it, they would listen. So we've gotten over 30,000 downloads in the first year. That's pretty cool. So I may have started this with a selfish goal. And I didn't think of it being selfish at the time, but it would have been a selfish goal. And I didn't achieve that goal. But what I did achieve was a more selfless goal. And I achieved something that's going to live long after I'm gone. Every person I've helped has probably helped someone in their life. And maybe the parents have helped their kids. Or maybe, somebody's friend noticed somebody getting help and living life a better way. And it kind of trickled down, it kind of rippled across. So there's a quote I have given to me from my parents. And it's always in visible sight from my desk. And the quote is, "What a man does for himself dies with him. What he does for others lives long after he is gone." And that's what I feel so excited for. Is I had a goal that would have died with me. But I didn't reach that goal. I reached something better. I reached a goal that's going to live long after I'm gone. So don't limit yourself based on the perceptions of others, okay? What you think others might think, what others might say, okay, how others might judge you. The only others that matter will be the ones that help you and build you up, not judge you and hurt you. So don't value the opinion. Don't live your life based on the opinions of people who would only hurt you, who would try to bring you down. Don't let them bring you down out of the fear of them trying to do it, where you don't even start because you're afraid they might do something. Shit, at least start.